People who have been unsuccessful. If we're both single at X age, we'll get married. Relationships. What is your story? I met someone once who did this for tax purposes. They were already good friends and planned on divorcing if they ever met someone they wanted to marry. He was confused as to why his relationships never lasted past him saying he was married. My husband and I met playing FFXI, an MMO, when we were about 14 years old. We lived one state over and became good friends, chatting online and on the phone mostly. When I was going through a typical exaggerated end of the world breakup where I claimed to be unlovable and alone forever, he was trying to comfort me and said, if we're single at 24, we can get married together. I reminded him of that a bunch of times in the future when both of us went through bad relationships. At age 20, finally both single and capable of traveling, we went on our first date. It was lovely. We went to a museum and one of the best steak restaurant in the city. However, we totally couldn't afford the steak. Did 2 years long distance, USA, Japan. Continued dating. Married at 26, 2 years late, and went back to that steak restaurant and got the most expensive steak. Still married and happy. Close bracket. Okay. So kinda happened. My husband and I were best friends in middle and high school. After multiple failed teenage relationships we made a pact to get married at 35 if we hadn't found anyone yet. We lost touch in our early 20s for about 10 years. Each with a child and failed marriages under our belts. We reconnected in our early 30s. Realized how amazing we are for each other. And have been happily together since. It was a year or two into our relationship when a mutual friend reminded us of our pact. We didn't get married until 36. But go us? Lol. I had this with a girl. The 30 years of age deadline. We hooked up at 25 and got married at 30. Still together. We met when we were 5 years old. We had a crush on each other. But we both switched schools after 4 years. And lost communication. We met again in 9th grade and became good friends. But he had a GF. For years every time one of us was single, the other was in a relationship. So we stayed as best friends. And only kissed once during senior year. Eventually, after a bad breakup, he tells me if we hit 30 and we're still single we should get married. I agreed. Fast forward to 10 years after that. And we've been together for almost 2 years. Not married. But still very happy. Not successful. She asked me to marry her by 30 when we were both 19. I said sure because I had a huge crush on her anyway. We dated briefly for a summer before she went back to college and have been good friends the rest of the time. She ended up becoming a Catholic sister after college. She takes similar vows of celibacy and poverty as a nun would. But lives in the world, as opposed to being secluded in a convent, and works for the church in finance. We still see each other. Are both in our late 30s. We have talked about it and she does admit to wanting in the past to be with me romantically again. That I am the only person she has been intimate with. But that she believes strongly in what she is doing and her vows. I love her dearly as a person and don't think of her romantically anymore. But it would be hard for me to say no if she left the church and wanted to see me again. I knew a guy in high school who had a huge crush on a girl that was 5 years younger than him. They never dated because she thought the age thing was creepy, but she told him that once she was 18 if they were both single they would hook up. They aren't married yet but they have been together for 4 years. A lot of people seem to have this deal with deadline old age 30. Is it only me or is that super young to give up on finding a partner? I made this pact with a very good friend. We're both in our separate relationships that are both going very strong. And we still talk very often. She's in another country so meeting up is kinda hard. I don't think either of us ever believed we would have needed the pact. But at the time it was nice knowing that we weren't gonna end up alone. We have a semi-joking pact with my 100% queer friend that if shit goes bad for American LGBT people, we'll pair off and pretend to be straight. I would upvote you for this as I've done close to the same thing with my friend group. But you're at 69 upvotes and I don't want to disrupt the balance. Not successful story. Met a guy in high school. We made the pact. I still have the written contract. For 30. We dated on and off for 10 years. I got married at 28. And he got married at 30. We still talk now and again. He is married overseas with a new baby and I have 2 kids. His wife hates me. He got married to someone else and so did I. We don't talk anymore In high school she threw out the "if I'm not married by the time I'm 40" thing and I volunteered for it. I bet she doesn't even remember that. Today we're almost 40 and we're amazing together. Maybe we'll carry out that old plan by accident. My parents grew up a few streets apart and played together all the time. They went to different schools and one or the other was always in a relationship or crushing on someone, so neither of them really saw each other as an option until they were both dumped on the very same day when they were 17/19 and decided they'd get married at 30. They've been together for 24 years. Close bracket. Not successful, but I think it's worth mentioning. I made a pact with a boyfriend I had at 17. We said if we somehow broke up but still weren't married by 21, we would marry each other. Yes. Looking back, 21 is insanely young, but it seemed so much older when I was 17. Close bracket. We broke up 2 months later and lost contact. A few years later, my parents and I moved to a new home. The person they sold our previous home to contacted us to let us know that a note addressed to me was left on their door. The note was from my ex, asking me to call him. By this time, I was in a relationship with someone else, but I was curious so I called him. He asked me to meet him for lunch, so I did. While at lunch, we caught each other up on our lives and then he brought up the pact, which I had forgotten about until then. That's when it occurred to me that he had just turned 21. I reminded him that the way we broke up did not leave the door open for a future together, and that I simply wasn't interested. He kept persisting and I brought up that I'm in a relationship that I'm happy in and he still wouldn't let it go. After that day, he pestered me online for a few weeks but eventually let it go. The thing that I don't understand is why he would try to make it work after the events that unfolded after our breakup. I had a friend who pestered me with personal questions about my relationship right after the breakup. What I didn't know is that she had secretly called him on my cell phone so that he could listen in on the conversation. However, he didn't answer, so the entire conversation recorded to his answering machine. About how he says his penis is only 4 inches from the ground, but it's actually smaller than my thumb. And how he lasted less than 10 seconds and as soon as he came he said, "I'm done," and got up. His parents are the ones that heard the message and then played it for him. He called me after to tell me about it and I shrugged it off. So clearly he knew about the message. So I will never understand why he'd want to get back together after that. I don't quite understand the point of marrying just because you're not married. Can anyone explain? We agreed many years ago if we were still single at 40, we'd get married. Had a 1-year relationship with her at 30, and it ended badly. We'd spoken 3 times since then, and I'm in a relationship I'd rather not be in almost 10 years down the line. She is still single, and I wish I could go back and fix the problems. Been together for 10 years since we were 18/19. When we were 13/14, joked that if neither of us had married by 30 we would marry each other. He turns 30 this year. I got divorced some years ago, and my best friend happens to be gay. After I divorced, he and I both jokingly said, when we turn specified age for me and specified age for him, and if neither is married, we'll get married. Because of this, we would refer to one another as hubby. And use it as a stupid in joke. Jay was always a good dude. We'd hang out and play Star Wars Battlefront on the PS4 on Christmas and get shitty-housed on mimosas. I'd take my kiddos over to have lasagna dinner twice a year. He'd come over for me to make meatloaf and watch stupid zombie movies. Yeah. We were essentially a gay couple. I'd be able to say, I'm not gay, but my husband is, and laugh about it. Unfortunately, 2 weeks ago, my friend died. I became a widow before being a married dude. We both worked at Best Buy and we were working overtime one weekend when she said that if we weren't married to someone else by the end of the year then we would get married. Well, we did end up getting married. It was all over the Best Buy newsletter since we both work for the company. We were both given promotion. I'm now regional manager of the Midwest division and she is in charge of something different. I can't remember what it is, but she is due to receive a big promotion pretty soon and then we're gonna have a kid and move to New York City. We can't wait. Me and my ex said this before we started dating as a joke. Carried it on through the relationship and even said it after we broke up because we are still close. I've got another year to see if that happens. Hopefully not, because her BF is a nice dude, lol. I knew a couple that sort of did this. One went on to get his PhD and they broke up because the work required would have ruined a relationship. But if the PhD thing doesn't work out, we can start dating again. The other started dating, got married, had a kid, got divorced because the guy was abusive. Started dating again. Got married again. Got divorced because he cheated on her. Years later, they reconnect on FB. A kid has started college at this point. The PhD thing didn't work out for the guy, so he went into IT, but never married. She reminded him that he said that if the PhD thing didn't work out, then they could start dating again. So she packed up and moved to his city. When I last saw them, they had been together for 7 years. When I was 20, I married my best friend as a joke. We used to joke all the time that we were basically already married because we were so close, and would become like an old married couple and spend all of our time together. Eventually it went from, haha, we're like a married couple, to, what if we actually got married? Like, just for fun. So we did it. We signed a marriage certificate, got a couple of rings, and life went on as normal. We just started calling each other Wiffy. We sleep in different beds and have a completely platonic relationship. But we plan on raising children together and having a life together. It's basically a really open marriage. We've had multiple relationships outside of each other and obviously look to people other than each other for the physical parts of a relationship. If we ever find somebody that we want to have a real marriage with, we'll have a huge divorce party and then be the other's maid of honor. I think sometimes people don't always realize that it's possible to find your soulmate without it being romantic. Your person is just somebody that you feel you can be 100% yourself with and know that no matter what happens, you're always going to have that person on your team. I have zero romantic feelings for her, and our relationship has never gone past platonic. But I love that girl with all my heart and would be lucky to build a life together and raise my children with her. My best friend since middle school and I made this deal after I got out of an abusive relationship. We ended up falling in love and getting married less than 2 years after that, and our 4th anniversary is coming up. Made this deal with a guy I dated in high school. The timing was always off when we tried to rekindle. Eventually we both started seeing other people. I got married and he planned to do the same. Fast forward 2 years. To 2019. We are both single and rekindling things. Attempting to. An awkward night plus awkward sex equals the end of the mystery of what could have been. My friend tried this as a proposal on her longtime friend and it worked so beautifully that I wanna try that out once. This is what basically happened. He asked the girl if she would like to be in a relationship with him if both of them were single after a certain age. The girl replied that it would be better than being single, so yeah. Then she asked at what age should we start dating each other. And then with a few seconds of the pretending to think expression, the boy said, well, how about 17, their age at that time? Kind of. Not really. We were to go make our mark on the world. Her in college. Me just graduated, then get back together when I turned 40 if we couldn't find someone better. We kept in touch but grew less close. I called her just after my birthday and she said, the timer on my eggs is about to go off. But I don't want to be a starving artist. She married someone a couple years ago. They look happy. She has a good career. In the business. In LA. I'm still a starving artist. And single. And now old. I don't know if this counts. But 2 years ago my best friend was thinking about leaving for the Navy. He hadn't gotten the score he wanted on the test previously and decided it was time to try again. And I was a little upset he wanted to leave. We decided that he'd go serve the 4 years, then he would come back and we'd get married and move on from there. He decided to stay and marry me instead of joining. Got married last September. Don't be so quick to judge. Maybe he didn't know her age originally. When I was 13 I was 5 feet 11. Completely developed. And frequently confused for someone of age. I was buying my mom's cigarettes for her at that age and beer for my friends by 15 and got carded maybe twice. Drinking in the bar by 18. Obviously my upbringing wasn't the greatest. But clearly many people thought I was older at that age. There are many other uncringy turned no fault cringy situations that could have occurred as well. He may have thought she was older. Developed the crush. Then found out she was 13. At least he didn't act on it until she was of age. On the other hand, if he knew I'm with the rest of these guys, I married him. We were best friends and joked about getting married if we were still single when I hit 30. Fell in love when I was 22 instead. The owners of my local pub did this. They've been best friends for upwards of 20 years. He's gay and I guess both have been unfortunate when dating. So decided to get married. I went to the reception, it was a masquerade.